This school is useless. Do you know who my father is? Mary said it like a weapon. She had everything: money, influence, a last name that opened doors. Born into wealth, raised by maids, protected by her father's shadow. What she never learned was respect. This was not her first insult, but that morning it became her last. In the principal's office, Mary didn't beg. She didn't explain. She crossed her legs, scrolled through her phone, and smiled. In her world, every problem had one solution: her father's money. But the principal was tired. Tired of the insults. Tired of the entitlement. Tired of watching teachers leave his office in tears. His voice was calm, but it shook the room. Mary, you are hereby expelled from this institution with immediate effect. She laughed. She laughed because she thought it was a joke. She laughed because she had never been told no. She laughed until the security men walked in. Reality knocked hard. Students watched in silence as the girl they feared, the girl who never greeted anyone, was escorted through the gate. Phones came out. Whispers spread. Her name trended, not for beauty, not for wealth, but for disgrace. As Mary slid into her father's car, chin high, pride untouched, she said the words that sealed her fate. "Daddy will handle it." What she didn't know was this: her father had finally had enough. "Pack your things. You're leaving Lagos tonight." Lagos traffic swallowed the car. Designer bags sat beside her as anger burned in her chest. She assumed it was another elite school. Another clean escape. Then the gate opened. And the sign appeared. The Agnes Mission School. Mary's heart dropped. Old walls. Bare classrooms. A bell that rang like it had been crying for years. This was not a school for daughters of wealth. This was a place built for discipline. Her heels sank into dust as she stepped out. Girls stood in neat lines. No phones, no lashes, no designer bags. Just simple uniforms and quiet obedience. A woman in a plain brown habit approached. "Sister Catherine," she said calmly, her presence heavy. "Welcome to St. Agnes. Here, we train character, not ego." Inside the dormitory, Mary stopped breathing. Metal bunk beds stacked like cages. One scratched locker. No mirror. Not even a broken one. She dropped her bag like it was diseased. This wasn't living. This was survival. That evening, the bell rang again. Not for food. Not for prayer. For duties. Mary followed the line of girls, still waiting for someone to laugh and call it a prank. At the back of the compound, her nightmare waited. Buckets lined like soldiers. Plates stacked higher than her pride. Clothes soaking in wide bowls, foam floating like accusation. Mary laughed, sharp and confident. "This one is for who?" she asked the girl beside her. "For all of us," the girl replied calmly. "Not me." Sister Catherine's voice sliced the air. "Mary." She stepped forward, still smiling. "You will start with plates." Mary froze. Plates. She stared at her hands, perfect nails, soft skin. She shook her head. "There must be a mistake." Sister Catherine smiled gently. "There is no mistake here." No one looked at her with pity. Only silence. And the drip of water from soaked clothes. Mary picked up one plate. Dropped it. "I can't do this." "You will learn." That was when it hit her, fear. That night, she didn't sleep. Her fingers burned. Her back ached. Her pride bled quietly. Morning didn't arrive. It attacked. The bell screamed before the sun could defend her. Mary woke with a sharp gasp. Her heart raced. Her body still carried yesterday's bruises. Her hands already felt tired from a tomorrow she had not yet lived. Before her thoughts could settle, a command cut through the air. Water duty. No argument. No delay. She joined the silent line of girls, bare feet pressing into the cold ground as they walked toward the well. The well stood like an old judge, tall, unmoving, waiting for confession. Mary peered inside. Dark. Deep. Unforgiving. She tied the rope around the bucket, fingers trembling, pride asleep for once. She dropped it. A small smile escaped her lips. "Okay. I can do this. She pulled. The bucket slammed against the wall and vanished back into the darkness. Second try. Splash. Whispers rose. Eyes gathered. Third try. The rope burned her palm, slipped from her grip, and the bucket plunged down again. Laughter burst open. Hands clapped. Voices mocked. Mary staggered back, breathing hard, chest tight. She stared at her hands, red, raw, burning. Tears rushed to her eyes, but she swallowed them. Not here. Not today. A prefect stepped forward, voice flat. Mary. Pick it again. Mary whispered, I can't. The reply came cold. You must. She bent again. Slower this time. She pulled with everything she had left. The bucket rose, heavy, cruel, victorious. Water spilled onto her shoes, soaking them, ruining them. Mary didn't flinch. Soft life was over. Later that morning came the next duty, scrubbing floors. She knelt, brush in hand, soap biting into her skin. Her knees screamed. Her back begged. But the floor demanded more. That was when Mary learned the first rule of St. Agnes. Pain does not ask for permission. At St. Agnes, meals were not announced politely. No warnings. No second chances. When the kitchen bell rang, students ran. They ran because food was limited. They ran because latecomers went hungry. The first time Mary heard the bell, she didn't move. She sat on her bed, fixing her hair in the small cracked mirror. I'll eat later, she thought. She was used to food waiting for her. By the time she stepped outside, the compound was silent. The pots were empty. That night, Mary slept hungry. She told herself it didn't matter. But hunger is a stubborn teacher. The next morning, her legs were weak, her head heavy, her pride still loud. Again the bell rang. Again girls rushed. Again Mary delayed. Again, nothing. 3 missed meals. No snacks. No money. No exceptions. By the third night, Mary cried quietly beneath her blanket, not because she was punished, but because she finally understood something simple. Nobody was coming to save her. The next day, when the bell rang, Mary ran. She ran with everyone else. She joined the line. She waited. It wasn't shameful. It was survival. That was the day Mary learned her first real lesson at St. Agnes. Pride does not feed you. After hunger taught her humility, Mary began to notice people. Girls who shared food without being asked. Girls who laughed despite having little. Girls who were rich yet lived simply. That was when she met Deborah. And that was when her heart began to soften. Mary watched Deborah wake early without complaint. Watched her scrub floors and still smile. Watched her greet Sister Catherine, not with fear, not with pride, but with calm respect. Mary began to notice others too. A girl whose mother was a senator. Another whose father owned hotels in Abuja. One whose parents lived abroad. All rich. All quiet. All grounded. No insults. No shouting. No entitlement. They queued. They fetched water. They knelt to scrub floors. And nobody announced who they were. That was when something cracked inside Mary. Back home, wealth made noise. Money spoke before character. Comfort hid weakness. Here, nobody cared. Your surname meant nothing. Your father's car meant nothing. Your money slept outside the gate. Only behavior entered. That night during prep, Mary stared at her notebook without seeing the words. She remembered how she spoke to teachers, how she talked back at home, how she laughed at people who struggled. For the first time, shame didn't come from punishment. It came from understanding. Later in the dormitory, Mary whispered to Deborah, I used to think poor people were the ones who suffered. Deborah looked at her gently. Sometimes the poorest people are the ones who never learned humility. Mary swallowed hard. That night, she cried, not loudly, not dramatically. Quiet tears. The kind that clean the heart. The next morning, something was different. When the bell rang, Mary stood up without dragging her feet. When it was water duty, she carried her bucket without complaint. When a younger girl struggled, Mary helped her. People noticed. Nobody clapped. And that was the lesson. Change does not need applause. It only needs truth. For the first time since arriving at St. Agnes, Mary stopped trying to escape. She began to stay. Because sometimes life does not punish you. It corrects you. Slowly, Mary began to belong. She laughed again, not at people, but with them. Real laughter. The kind that leaves no guilt behind. She joined debates, spoke with confidence, not arrogance. Led group studies, listened more than she talked. Played games she once called childish and discovered joy had no age limit. The school that once felt like a prison became home. For the first time, Mary was loved for who she was, not whose daughter she was. Before arrogance, Mary had always been brilliant. Sharp mind. Quick understanding. Once top of her class. But at St. Agnes, brilliance alone was not enough. No shortcuts. No bribing teachers. No special treatment. Just exams. And effort. Mary failed some tests. She cried. She studied harder. Slowly, steadily, she rose again. Graduation day came quietly. Parents filled the compound. Expensive cars outside the gate. Simple uniforms inside. Mary stood among her classmates, hands folded, calm, grounded. When the principal announced, "Best graduating student, Mary," the crowd gasped. Her father froze. Her mother covered her mouth, tears spilling freely. Mary walked forward, not rushed, not proud. Steady. As she received her award, her eyes met her father's. This time, there was no pride. Only gratitude. Later, away from the crowd, her father pulled her into a tight hug. "St. Agnes gave me back my daughter." Mary smiled. She no longer needed luxury to feel important. Because real life had taught her what money never could. Humility makes greatness last. And sometimes, the place you hate the most is the place that saves you. Please like, share, and subscribe.